All right, Houston Hacks fans, time to get a little preview on the National Pokemon Draft League and all the teams that were drafted. So, what I want to do is I kind of want to run through um, every single team and just kind of give a minor breakdown of my initial thoughts, threats, and such, just like that. So, let's start with the Intrepid division. Let's go with the Utah Copper Raja. And I think they got a pretty cool squad. I love the Hydreigon plus Toxapex. I think that combination of Mons covers every single weakness, so you can always pivot between the two. Toxapex is just always a big defensive threat. Hydreigon now with Nasty Plot is nasty. Savali is going to um, take is going to be a great matchup for him in almost every single game. Having the ability to take advantage of teams that are not constructed to the point where they don't have any weaknesses, which is impossible with 10 mons to not have any weaknesses. But Silvally is going to be able to exploit those. I really like the Pincursion with the Hitmonlee. I wish he would have. I think he should get Mr. Mime instead of Mr. Rhyme, and pick up a Alolan Raichu so that he can get the sweeping potential of Alolan Raichu. Really like Steelix for rocks. Whimsicott with its Prankster is super, super nice. And then Piloswine, obviously one of my favorite mons of all time. I think I really like his hazard options. He's got a ton of different options. He's got options as far as Rapid Spin and Defog. And so that's probably the strength of this team, I think, is going to be getting up hazards and then being able to use his faster, more offensive mons, such as Hydreigon. Hitmonlee is probably going to get a lot of kills in this team to clean games up. So Utah Copperage like the squad quite a bit, and let's move on. All right, so Houston Hacks, I got a separate video for you guys just breaking down my draft and what I think. But basically, I got Terrakion plus Hat plus Obstagoon, and hopefully I can just break absolutely everybody's team using those three mons. And then hopefully the rest of the squad can support enough to put those mons in position to win. The Regional Bird, this is one of my favorite drafts. I really like A-Bird's team to an extent. I think there's a few things that I would do to change it up, but Melmetal plus Haxorus has got to be like one of my favorite combinations. Like absolute raw power, like 143, 147 attack stat is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And then having Mold Breaker is super, super nice to get those pesky Levitate Mons and break them and really not have to predict as much. Jellicent, some nice fat to go along with the offense. I like that a lot. Alolan Ninetales. See, this is the combination. Melmetal, Haxorus, and Alolan Ninetales. I think that combination right there, just setting up his Aurora Veil and then allowing his Melmetal and his Haxorus to just go to town and smack people. I think that's going to be a really deadly combination. I think it's going to be a great one. Teams are going to have to bring Defog. They're going to have to bring Psychic Fangs. They're going to have to bring Brick Break or Weather in order to counteract that. And I'm excited to see what happens. Vikavolt, I think, is a good addition for his team as well, allowing him to have a Levitate Mon, so Earthquake doesn't hurt Melmetal as much. And then setting up webs so Melmetal and Haxorus can do more damage. Now, obviously, Melmetal is going to have a more difficult time actually utilizing the webs, but nonetheless, you add a little bit of speed onto 34, and it actually gets a lot better pretty quickly, especially when all the other mons are -1 speed. Moving on, Virizion, decent pickup, good speed tier. I like that. Mudsdale, I got no problems with. Good mon can set up some rocks and just be a solid pivot. Obviously, it gets worn down quite a bit, but most ground types get worn down unless your name's Hippo. Frostmoth, I thought was interesting for him. Malmar goes with his idea of just setting up all the time. That's kind of A-Bird's been his thing since he's been in the league, is he wants to set up and he wants to win. So he's always got mad threats all around. Malmar, I think, is a good Pokemon and definitely one that's going to probably get a sweep or two this year. Beheem, I think since it's a tier 20, I don't mind this pick. Analytic is good, and it's actually not a bad trick rumor. With his team, Baheen, Mudsdale, and Melmetal, he could run some trick room shenanigans. And Baheen does a ton of damage. Okay, 125. Its coverage isn't necessarily awesome, but it's pretty good. I think what he's going to have to do is with this Frostmoth, he's going to have to run it more defensively, or at least that's what I would do. Because here's the biggest problem I have with this draft. It's that his only defogger is Frostmoth. So that means he has to run heavy duty boots, Frostmoth, and run defog. So I know he wants to set up and win right away, but with a lot of his mons being on the ground, I don't like his matchup against Toxic Spikes. Now, obviously, Melmetal doesn't care about Toxic Spikes, and honestly, this team's trying to win before Toxic Spikes can really have a big impact. But only having defog does make it difficult. And only having one stealth rocker. So I would say his team is Abird's team is pretty predictable, yet I don't know how you're going to deal with it in some situations because Haxorus and Melmetal just hit so hard. Not a ton of priority either, although first impression is actually really, really good. All right, let's keep on going. Washington Alakazam's champion of Season 4, my boy Henrik out of Norway. Had the incredible Jirachi pick to steal from Cole. Absolutely loved it. But his team, he has a ton of threats, and he's got decent speed tiers. 100 for Noivern, or 100 for Charizard, 123 for Noivern, 108, 100. Like, he's got a very quick team and has webs on top of it. I think the webs is really going to help his Mamoswine as 80 becomes kind of an awkward speed where you just can't outspeed a lot of major threats. But you outspeed a lot of the walls. And so I think with webs, Mamoswine isn't going to have to be scarfed as much as maybe he would like, or maybe he would otherwise. Gardevoir, I think, is a really good offensive mon. Great scarfer. He's got a lot of good scarfers, actually. Jirachi, Mamoswine, Gardevoir, all good scarfers. I've seen Zard be scarfed before. Quillfish has his pivot. Scrafty has a pivot. 2 Intimidate mons. I really like that. Setting up Toxic Spikes. Scrafty can do a lot of different things. Barbaracle is just a nice little sweeper addition. And then this Gourgeist is going to be a good pivot for him, especially against my Terrakion. I'm kind of angry he's got Gourgeist because Terrakion would be a lot better against his team otherwise. No, overall, really good team. I think he's going to have some really cool Jirachi sets. Obviously, the Berry Lord himself is definitely going to have some options with maybe an Ice Berry on Noivern, although Heavy Duty Boots just make sense most of the time. But pretty excited to see what Henrik can do. I like his team. I like how fast it is and offensive with a few built-in pivots as well. So it should be a fun team to watch. All right, more Pico Chargers. This is one of my other favorite teams because of the fact that we have Zera plus Darmg. 2 super offensive Pokemon. Very, very big threats. And obviously pretty fast. 95 speed is really fast in this meta. And so Zera plus Darm, I think, is going to get a ton of kills this year. He's got some nice pivots behind it. So Melodic being one of his pivots, as well as I think Celebi having the ability to set up and win. I really, really like Celebi. I know maybe it's not the best mon. I just have some favorites, and Celebi's one of my favorites. But it can do so many different things, and then it has U-turn in order to pivot back into other mons, as well as Stealth Rock. Lucario, I think, is going to treat him really, really well. I like the priority that he has on his team that Lucario brings to help break, especially since it's looking like Steel and Steel types. I guess Darmg has Earthquake and Fire moves. I don't know. There really isn't much that's going to block these guys. Maybe a really bulky ground type. And then you put on a Yachi Berry for Darmg's Ice move. I'm not sure. But he's got so many offensive breakers. Like, I really like this team. This team would be super fun to play with. Having Lucario can be a mixed breaker. Chandelure, obviously, on the special side. Basically, I just see Jesus putting in his breakers and allowing his breakers to obviously break the opponent's team until Zera or maybe a Scarf Darmanitan can come in and just win the game at the end. So pretty cool team. I like it a lot. I think Wheezing also with the neutralizing gas is actually really, really good. Really good pickup. Another great pickup I think is Liepard. I think having Prankster Thunderwave, it has priority in Sucker Punch, Foul Play, 106 speed. I think this is actually a really, really good pickup for him. And I was eyeing this mon quite a bit. I just already had a really good dark type. So Leopard is actually really, really good mon. And I'm excited to see what it can do. But overall, I really like his priority. And then his top tier offensive threats. Like, look at all his priority. It's insane. It's insane. So I like the team uses. Let's go down to Ball. I know Ball has adjusted his team a little bit. But just off the bat, without looking at anything else, Como is one of the best mons in this format. Just having the ability to set up all of its stats with its Clangorous Soul is really, really nasty. Just being able to basically win a game instantly, especially with the Throat Spray set, especially in the hands of someone as good as Ball, is really, really nasty. He definitely helped his speed tier out by picking up Cinderace. And then also kind of limiting or telling opponents, be careful if you bring any hazards because he can just flip them on you. I also really like the Rillaboom now that it gets Grassy Surge. I think Grassy Surge is just a nasty, nasty ability on Rillaboom. I think it's, especially with U-Turn, Knockoff, Fake Out, it's got a lot of options. I think it's a really good Assault Vest user. And then, Wood Hammers are not going to be fun to switch into, as well as his signature move that lowers speed. There's really no good switching on Rillaboom now, and so I think in combination of Rillaboom breaking, Cinderace cleaning, and Como being able to sweep, set up rocks, be defensive, whatever you want it to be, I think those three provide a really, really good core for his team. Gastrodon kind of covers some of the weaknesses in Cinderace. And so I like that pickup. He's got Trick Room option with Aromatisse plus Caparajah. I think Caparajah is a beast, especially under Trick Room. I think it's one of the best Trick Room mons with its coverage and its 130 attack. I just really hate how weak its defenses are, which is kind of annoying, but it can usually take one hit, if not more. So really, really cool mon. I'm excited to see how Ball uses that because I know he's going to use it in a creative way. Drapion, I think, is a really good Gloomon, good speed tier, toxic spikes, great pivot. Orbeetle provides webs, screens, U-turn. It can be an iron defense sweeper with body press. Another versatile mon that I really like, especially with Ball. And then here, I think Ball honestly is making the best of this tier 20, probably the best tier 20 in my opinion, because now you get it going in Hail to sweep with 130 base attack. Like, how are we allow this to be a tier 20? And then Veilonux, I think, is really good too. The Ice Cream Cone with Freeze Dry and just Scarf 100% hitting blizzards. I think it's a really good mon. I mean, 110 special attack is nothing to scoff at. He's definitely going to pick up a lot of kills. I could see this being his Pelipper of this year, and probably getting 10 or 11 kills en route, and also helping obviously Beartech be a better mon as well. So pretty scary team from Ball's side. I'm actually the Intrepid division is looking really tough. I haven't seen a bad team at all, and now we're going to go to the Anaheim side, who some would say had one of the best drafts in total. Part of that reason is Dragapult. And then having one of the best pivots in the game and defogger in the game, probably the best defogger in my mind in the game in Mana Buzz, being able to heal, being able to pivot, being able to take a ton of damage, ton of hits, only really threatened by like super effective moves, and he's got pivots for everything else. Another thing that I really like about his team is his speed overall. I think with Salazzle 117 speed, Durant 109, obviously Dragapult at 142, he's got a lot of threats that are fast. I think Primarina is one of the best breakers, if not the best breaker, especially with specs in the game. So being able to get in Primarina and start breaking things down so that Dragapult can sweep late game or Durant can sweep 80% of the time late game is going to definitely be a great game plan for him. Being able to poison everything with Salazzle. I think Galade's a great pickup as well. It also has Shadow Sneak and some priority, which helps his team out a lot. I think the weaknesses in the squad are probably going to be he doesn't really have a great stealth rocker. Like, I don't think Crustal's a great stealth rock spike user. It definitely checks the box, but with the way his team's set up, I think he's gonna have a hard time fitting Crustal on his roster every single week, especially since Bug Rock really isn't the greatest defensive typing in the entire world. It's not bad, but there's just definitely better options. So pretty cool team overall, though. I'm excited. I hope we can see Glaceon do work. That's a really fun mon to see as well. So yeah, hopefully, depending on how good Duran is, this team could be really, really nasty, especially offensively. All right, moving on to the Dauntless division. Let's look at the commissioner himself, Las Vegas Cinderace. So Cole, his goal is to get Jirachi plus Kyurem, unfortunately, and hilariously, Henrik stole his Jirachi from him. So he wound up getting Kyurem, and then I believe Togekiss was the second pick. Togekiss, really good fairy type, really versatile. But these three mons, they're going to get all the kills for him. Maybe not all of them. They're going to get a lot of them. I think Kyurem may be somewhat of a sleeper MVP pick. I think Choice Specs, not Frost Breath, but the ice move that is super effective against water types. I think that or Scarf or just Roost. I mean, Kyurem can just do so many different things and is really, really hard to remove. Its base stats are just so incredible. I mean, its worst base stats being 90 and 90 on its defenses. Obviously, 90-90 is really good when in combination with 125, so I don't really see a ton of weaknesses with Kyurem as far as its stats go and offensively. Kyurem's biggest issue is going to be if someone can get rocks up on it, and then also it's weak to fighting dragon, fairy. It's got a lot of super effective weaknesses potentially, but overall I really have nothing to complain about Kyurem. I think that's going to be a really, really good mon for Cole. Hluchik is always a threat, gives him a great speed tier. Cobalion as well, setting up rocks, really solid. All these mons, honestly, every mon on Cole's team I think is very, very, very solid mon, even down at the very bottom here. Lantern is one of my favorite mons all time. Volt Absorb, super, super nice. Colossal is always just in the way. Same with Runerigus. Both these mons set up a ton of hazards. Obviously, Colossal can spin, but both are just always in the way. Just running Kelks in the last season, when looking at Runerigus and Colossal, I believe they were both on Henrik's team. It's very hard to just have your sweeper. Like, you just can't kill these things in one shot, is basically what I'm saying, unless it's super effective. So unless you have water coverage to hit both of them, you just can't kill them in one shot. So pivoting between them I think is going to be pretty useful. Villaplume gives him a grounded poison, which I know Cole and most people like to have. Otherwise, I don't see... I mean, Strength Sap is very nice, but I don't see Villaplume being that nasty of a mon. And then Gothorita, I hope he can find some area in which he can excel with Shadow Tag. But I don't think, just with the defenses of Gothorita, I don't think it's a great... Obviously, it's just a tier 40, right? So it's not maybe the best mon in the world. But I love all the hazards. Got pretty good defoggers as well. Decent, not really very good. Almost non-existent priority, but that's okay because his speed tiers are fairly decent with 118 and 108 and 95 on the top end. All right, let's keep going. So here's an interesting draft. I actually like Dracovish instead of Keldeo just because I don't like doubling up on fighting types. Not that there's a ton of flying types in the game, but just doubling up on a non-defensive typing, I don't really like. I think, especially like they're elite damagers on the physical and the special side, but yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it can definitely do work. And teams that are weak to fighting types, oh my gosh, he's going to just run through. But I think you can exploit this, especially if you have psychic types. I don't know, like Hat or some other psychic types that can take advantage of these two. Arcanine, one of my favorite mons ever, super versatile. I think teleport here could be really really nice, getting in his major threats. I think the more he can get in his threats, the better. On this team, Roserade gives a really nice speed tier at 90. And a lot of damage, along with Toxic Spikes, obviously, and Grounded Poison. Seismitoad, again, good pivot. Just gets worn down over time. Ufesdent, I think, is underrated mon. Does a ton of damage. Pretty good speed tier. So overall, the team's pretty fast with decent priority as well. Excavalier, I think, is an underrated steel type. Obviously weak to fire, but now that we don't have hidden power, it's much better. Sableye can throw. Here's the kind of the tech picks I see them as. Prankster, Will-O-Wisp, Prankster Recover, all that, and then Magic Bounce to try to prevent rocks and such. I think it's a pretty cool team. I'm excited to see how Nutcheck uses it, but we'll see. We'll see. The double fighting is just an interesting way to go about it. I think it's really really interesting to see what will happen, and this is definitely one team that I'm excited to see be used. Because the double fighting just intrigues me, just having both of them. So, all right. Let's go to the Moto Stroke, the Overdrive. So Dracovish, obviously a big threat. We got a Rain team. A couple things that kind of confuse me, and I think it's an overall pretty good team, especially Rain's going to help Bronzong. Rain's good with Serena. Rain's pretty good with Jolteon, being able to use Weather Ball. Rain's okay for Quag. Quag doesn't really care that much though. But you definitely need a ground type or multiple ground types. Dugtrio seems interesting. I think Dugtrio is a good mon on its own. I don't know how good it is in Rain, but I think it definitely can. Since fire types are already weakened, do you really need Dugtrio to trap them? I don't know. Maybe if he had Ferrothorn, I'd see that a little bit easier. But Dugtrio is an interesting pick. Yes, you do want to get rid of electric types, and so maybe that is a great tech for this team is to get rid of electric types using Dugtrio. So I think this team can definitely work. I think it's really really cool. I think Dracovish is obviously a mad threat, especially in Rain. You just Choice Scarf in Rain is just deadly. Obviously kills almost everything in the game. So. If you don't have Water Absorb Mon, you're in trouble. Overall, I think it's a pretty good team fundamentally. I think Dottler adds a lot to the team with webs, Trick Room, a lot of different options that were not there before. So I think that was a really good pickup. I do love me some Jolteon. Sylveon can Wish Pass a little bit, although there's not too many awesome people receiving the Wish Pass. But Rapidash, I would be surprised if it does anything, especially on a rating team. We'll see what happens. I looked at it. It's got a decent speed tier, good attack, and pretty good coverage. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Rapidash does. Rapidash got to prove me wrong. All right, let's keep going. I think this is the most offensive, biggest threat team in the league. I think and he's got the best web setter. So, Magnus always has the nastiest teams. Last year was the super bulk one. This is the super offensive. So setting up webs and then allowing Toxtricity, Darmanitan, Crawdont, and Gengar, all of which are good choice item users, whether it be Scarf, Specs, or Band. I could see him running webs plus choice Specs, Toxtricity, choice Band, Darmanitan, choice Band, Crawdont, and choice Specs, Gengar, and winning a lot of games. I think that Magnus's team can break obviously anybody. Even if you resist attacks, I think you're gonna have to play fast and hopefully play well because you're not gonna have a lot of switch ins. And then what I love is, all right, so Magnus has this option of webs plus offense. He's got a good choice scarf in Passimian, decent pivot in Rhyperior, but more likely down here is going to be the Trick Room option. So you could see Trick Room plus webs, which is an interesting combination. But Dusclops, Drampa, Rhyperior, all really slow mons, all mons that hit super hard. Rhyperior, 140 base attack, and then rock and ground coverage is actually incredible. So I think Rapier is a mad threat. I think Drampa used it last year. Super offensive. Can be an awesome mon as well. Base 135. And I think Drampa only got better this season because it picked up Defog, it picked up Roost, it picked up all kinds of different options. And then I just like Dusclops. I do. Meg's goal this year is apparently to use War Turtle effectively in 6-0 a team with Shell Smash War Turtle and running some stats. I mean, yeah, you'd say 58 and 65 aren't very good for sweeping, but when you double those, they're actually not bad. They're actually pretty good, especially when Shell Smash is giving you attack and special attack. So you're especially with really good coverage in War Turtle as well. I think Aqua Jet can be an option as well. So War Turtle, pretty cool mon. Basically webs plus breakers plus trick room. I think this team is really, really cool, and I think Magnus is the perfect person to run this team. All right, the defending champ. Let's see what he's got. According to Cooper's power ranking, this is the worst team in the entire league, which I disagree with. I just think it has the least amount of options. So there might be some adjusting that needs to go on with the squad, but I think some of the potential is there. I think you're only going to bring about 7 mons every single time. Because or 8 mons, maybe Blossom with Chlorophyll you can fit in somewhere. But I just Greedent plus Sudowoodo. I don't know what you're going to do with Sudowoodo. I think under Sand, Sudowoodo becomes a lot better. It's got decent defense, and then allowing its bad special defense to get 1.5 boosted, I think makes it actually pretty decent. But just rock typing, I mean, it really isn't a great defensive typing. Now, what I really like about this team is that he found a way to pair Sun plus its best sweeper, okay, the best Sun setter with the best Sun sweeper, and the best Sands, well, arguably the best Sand setter. I think Tyranitar just does a lot more than other Sand setters. And then Excadrill is the best Sand sweeper. And then he picked up one of the best defensive dragons and the best defensive fairy type. So, it's one of those things where maybe he only has 8 real options, even though I'm sure with the way Prisley, can team build, I'm sure he can find a way for Greedent to be a good mon, and same as Sudowoodo. But I mean, overall, I just think his team is going to be difficult to deal with because there's so many different things you need to prepare for, and a lot of all these mons are good on their own, anyways. I really do think Torkoal is going to have Sun. So, honestly, I think Torkoal is fine on its own as well. I think every single one of these mons are good on their own, except for these bottom 3 are a little bit of a question mark. But, they allow him to do some certain things with the multiple weathers. It's definitely going to throw off teams that have weather already, since he has multiple options. But just setting up his Excadrill or Venusaur to take a ton of kills, as well as Blastoise just coming in and setting up as well. I think it's a really cool team, really cool concept, and I'm excited to see how Prisley actually uses this squad, because I think it could have a lot of potential. But typically, I do not like top heavy teams. So, but when you got cool gimmicks like weather, I think there's some potential here. All right, we're almost finished. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. So let's look at the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Intelligence. This is arguably the most scary, or I think the mon that should win hardest prep of the year. Necrozma can do everything and not die in one hit. Like, literally, I don't know if anything in the game can kill it in one hit. I do not think it's possible. And so, obviously, at least 100% guaranteed. And so, with its bulk, on top of its access to all the boosting moves, Necrozma is a mad threat, especially under screens. And when you have the best screen setter in the game in Grimmsnarl, I think this team is really, really nasty just with those two. I was excited to see where Cooper would take the team afterwards. I believe he picked up Flygon pretty shortly afterwards. I think Flygon's one of the best dragons with its speed tier and its ability to do many, many different things. I think Flygon's really, really good. I think Dracozold's really interesting. Sandrush obviously is going to be a mad threat involving Gigalith. And I think the combination of these top 5 mons here actually is pretty good. It's pretty good. Vaporeon can Wish Pass into Gigalith. It can Wish Pass into Necrozma. I think that's nasty. Deblade, it's a better on Papermon in my opinion, but I think he only picked that up for my Terrakion. My Terrakion doesn't have a great time with it. I have to Earthquake it, which he can run Air Balloon if he wants to. Chichino is a weird Pokemon, but with Band, it actually does quite a bit of damage. And then having a speed tier of 115 is really, really nice. So his team's super, super bulky. He's got a little bit of priority with Girder. Skunk Tanks, I think, is a really, really cool mon as well. Being a grounded poison, it's got Flamethrower. Dark Poison, obviously, is a great combination of typings. But overall, his team's going to be super fat, and people are going to have to be really, really smart because there's going to be a lot of weakness policy carriers on his team, and I think him having so much bulk, he might just win outright after removing like the one mon that can break the team. So I think his matchup against Magnus might not be the best, but against most other people that don't have as many breakers, the Federal Bureau and Intellions are going to have a good time. This team, I really like. Renequist was a mon that I really wanted to get, but instead I went with Hat because it was a little bit cheaper and then provided me a fairy type. But Renequist, I think, is a mad threat. I think it's really, really good. I think Ferrothorn obviously is a premier grass type. I love Gyarados. I love Rotom Heat. Like, I think this Firewater Grass core is actually incredible. I don't know exactly how synergistic Renequist is, but Renequist is a mon on its own that can do a lot of things. So having the Trick Room option is going to be really, really nice. Machamp, also a mon that can be in that Trick Room type of situation, and I love getting a Wish Passer and Umbreon to help out. I think Wish Passing from Umbreon into Machamp, Umbreon into Rotom Heat, Umbreon even into Rhydon is going to be a lot of, some pretty good options for this team. And another potential Trick Room offensive threat in Rhydon. So I really like this team so far. The last few picks are interesting. Obviously, it makes it tough when you can only get tier 40s. Swoobat is going to always be a threat because getting to +4 in one turn is always pretty deadly, especially with 114 speed. So I could see a Focus Sash, Nasty Plot set with this guy. I think Calm Mind sets are even potentially better because you can actually take a hit because Swoobat's defenses are so bad. Togetic, I think, is really good. I think it's a really good tier 40. Being able to Baton Pass, being able to Encore, being able to have a decent amount of coverage, and with Eviolite being super, super defensive. Trevenant is what it is. It's not a super great Ghost Grass, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not terrible. I like the amount of defog that this team has. Good amount of spikes and Stealth Rock, obviously, and then being able to Wish Pass with Umbreon and Togetic is actually really, really nice. And then Machamp's just one of my favorite mons, so I gotta give it there. So that's everybody, you guys. It's been a long video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. We'll see what happens. I think I don't necessarily disagree with Cooper's rankings, but honestly, looking at the teams, I think everybody's got pretty solid teams. I don't think anyone is far and above anyone else, and I think it's going to be a really competitive year. I'm super excited to see how everybody does, and good luck, everybody. See y'all later. Peace.